Hello and welcome, bookworms. Welcome to this week's episode of the Contended Narrative. I apologise for how my voice sounds. I'm on the tail end of a cold, but because I didn't have any ready to go videos in my library, this week's and next week's episodes have been filmed while I'm still sort of recovering. So I do apologise, but hopefully after September, when we go back into like the spooky months, my voice should be back to normal because I will have given myself a bit more time to film and feel a lot better. So again, I do apologise, guys. Anyway, welcome to this week's episode of The Contended Narrative. We're looking at The Story Collector by Evie Woods. Now, if you remember rightly, I did review one of her books earlier in the channel. It was called The Lost Bookshop, which was just a delightful little story. And I would definitely recommend either going back and watching that video or reading the book. It was very enjoyable. And so I saw The Story Collector, and I wasn't sure if it was going to be a sequel. I wasn't sure if it was going to have the same characters. I bought it blind, which doesn't normally happen with me. So normally I do make sure that I'm reading the blurbs and having a look. And I 100% judge books by their covers, by the way. People pay a lot of money. They put a lot of artwork into some of these covers. But I bought it blind just because I really enjoyed the first book. So The Story Collector follows two stories. So a little bit similar to The Lost Bookshop. But basically 100 years ago, it follows the story of a girl called Anna, who's a young farm girl who volunteers to help an intriguing American visitor translate fairy stories from Irish to English. So he's basically come out from America. He's really interested in the wilds, the fairies, the fae, the superstitions that you have. Why'd you put a bowl of milk out on Halloween? Like those kind of things, like listening to people that have thought that they've had interactions. And he wanted to kind of get this information from loads of different places, but he ends up in Ireland where he meets Anna. But you find her story out through a diary that Sarah's reading. So Sarah's the modern day version, and she's had a bit of a tumultuous time, and she's on her way back home, and she has a bit of a moment where she looks at this beautiful landscape and this newspaper in the airport that talks about this fairy tree in Ireland, and she literally turns around and goes, "Do you know what? Fine." So she gets a little bit drunk and ends up in Ireland. And through there, she kind of rediscovers her passion for artistry. She's reading this book about Anna and her time 100 years ago, and she's staying in the same cottage that Anna lived in. And it's just a really lovely parallel between the two. I love the stories. I love the span of time. I love that sometimes as well, like with certain aspects, you kind of know where they're going, and you kind of start there being like, oh, I know what this is going to end up. And Sarah's story feels very much like that. It's very much she's come out to Ireland by mistake. She's decided to stay. She decides to then go off and find herself. And exactly how her story goes is exactly how you think it's going to go. And Anna's story is slightly different. And honestly, it's a little bittersweet. It's a little bittersweet when you find out sort of like how it ends and what leads up to the reason why Anna's story ends the way that it does. But I think the way, and I love that about that, like the first book, and I love it about this book, the way that she kind of has these two stories that are running almost parallel to each other, but they intertwine so beautifully. And I think it's just such a lovely book, and it's one that you can go back to, and it's one that doesn't need a lot of your brain power, and it's one that's just a really nice sort of sit-in, cozy read, especially with the autumn. The weather's changed, hence the cold. You can just sit, light on, stormy outside, and just read about these cozy little stories and love and, fairies and everything. And I love the fact that although, Anna is helping this American create these stories about fairies, it's not a fairy story as such. Like, there's hints, but it's not, unlike obviously Emily Wilde's encyclopedia of fairies, which is obviously about fairies. This isn't very much like that, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I would say go out and give it a go. You know what I normally say, like Kindle, Waterstones, that's my go-to, hardback, paperback, library, however you want to read it, and let me know what you think. And let me know if you did read the first one as well and if you enjoyed it. But thank you so much for your continued support. We're getting up there. We're almost at 390 subscribers, so I can't thank you guys enough. Keep watching my videos, keep sharing it, keep telling me what you'd like me to read, and honestly, thank you so much. I remember to always keep it contento.